This was our first winter in Port Renfrew. We soon found out that the January 1 polar dip was a big fun attraction. Port Renfrew at this time was considerably more isolated than with today's Pacific Marine Road from Lake Cowichan and Highway 14 from Victoria. Many a winter's day on weekends, we would explore the area. Botany Bay and Botanical Beach were two of our favorites. There was no provincial park as there is today, and nobody else ever, except occasionally a few locals, visited these areas. Here we explore an old wooden road made of planks and logs. Here's Patricia showing you how deep the Salal coverage was. We climbed through the brush to a high point on the coast to get some spectacular views back toward Gordon Bay. We always took Cub with us, and he just loved to wrestle with sticks on the beach with us. This is a couple of random photos that I took in January of my cactus planter I first made in Vancouver. I found this accidentally taken photo interesting, so I've left it into the movie. This is the San Juan Suspension Bridge, and it opens up the entire south side of the San Juan River and hooks through to Cook's Island, by the way. And here is an old train trestle bridge at Bear Creek, which has now been taken down and cleaned up. Winter of '76 saw some heavy snowfalls, so one weekend we went out to the Pandora Creek area and hiked in the deep snow. It was about at this time we got ourselves a fish tank, a large one, and we started learning the ins and outs of having an aquarium. The San Juan estuary is an overwintering area for trumpeter swans, and the entire estuary is now an ecological reserve. We were fortunate enough to see trumpeter swans there many a day. Over at Ferry Lake you can find the log flume tree with the hemlock growing out of it. I just love seeing the swans gather there in the estuary. Here's an example log flume, not the actual one that existed there in Port Renfrew. From the 1940s, a log coming down the log flume embedded itself in the bottom of Ferry Lake. And this hemlock seated itself on the end of the log. 80 years later, it's still there. Here is where we lived. The logging camp and operations were 5 minutes away. The housing was divided into upper and lower beach camps. We lived in the upper beach camp area. Our 600 square foot rental house was $40 a month rent. 2 small bedrooms, we had one used as an office. It had a kitchen, eating area, small living room, and a small bath. Humble to say the least. Here's our wonderful dog, Cub. We named Cub because he looked a little like a black bear, and he was kept by Million Don Goodsell for a while until we got settled into Port Renfrew, and we just love this dog. Our neighbor's son would come over and visit occasionally. Here's another view of our cul-de-sac, and you can see my company truck in the driveway, and here on the carport is our Chevy Nova. We had lovely views from Upper Beach Camp here to Browns Mountain, then out to Gordon Bay, out to the ocean, and back down to Lower Beach Camp. Beautiful. A sure sign that spring is here. Well, with the snow, we had a few days in the office to catch up on reports and things like that. We were pretty much amazed at how much snow the area got that winter. This is a view of the A-frame truck wash, and then some of the working shops for repairing trucks. And this is the logging camp itself with the bunkhouses. I was required to take some of my holidays in the poor weather of the spring season, so we went south. I have incorporated here a separate movie that I had made of our spring holiday. Living in Port Renfrew at the time, it saw us drive to Comox to pick up Pat's parents, Don and Millie Goodsell's travel trailer and truck. We are unclear which route we took to leave Vancouver Island. We think it was from Victoria to Port Angeles. We don't have any record or know where we camped on this particular trip, but we know we drove for 2 days and ended up in Florence, Oregon, where we took in the beaches and sand dunes. After enjoying the dunes, we head down to Crescent City and then on to cave exploring at Oregon Caves National Monument. Heading south again, we stop in at Trees of Mystery near Klamath, California. Last year, when we stopped here, we didn't take any photos, and I'm not sure why, but we did buy a wall plaque entitled End of the Trail that's hung on our walls for 50 years.
With my double blade axe and my hobnail boots, I go where the timber's tall. When there's work to be done, don't mess around, just sing right out for Paul.
Hey Paul,
I'm coming, boys.
Paul Bunyan. He's 63, axe handles high, with his feet on the ground and his head in the sky. Hey Paul, Paul Bunyan.
If you like trees, look at this beautiful stand of redwoods. Our next adventure is a drive and a stroll through the giant redwoods near Wiyot and South. We and our truck are dwarfed by these mighty giants. I'll leave you with a pan up the Founder's Tree, 346 feet tall, absolutely amazing. Now it's off to San Francisco to do the Alcatraz prison tour, which we didn't do last year, and of course we're going to get some crab from the markets. A crab and shrimp feast. Now we head north along I-5 to Winston, Oregon, which is south of Eugene, Oregon. And our goal is to visit the wildlife safari, where we will uncouple the trailer and do a self-drive tour through the park. In some ways, I like this more than the San Diego Wild Animal Park because we got up close and personal with the animals. Our final stop is Mount Rainier. We figured we were so close we might as well take this opportunity anyway. It is certainly a different time then than now. Nobody was in the parking lot. We had the place to ourselves. This was 858 inches or 71.5 feet of snow, and not near the record of 1971-72 where it was 1,122 inches or 93.5 feet. I used to call Mount Rainier my mountain, and it is certainly beautiful. All photos in this movie were taken with my new 35mm single lens reflex Minolta SRT 102 slide film. Well, I'm back to work, and now I'm heading up to Granite Creek to do some utilization surveys. And while I was working in this area, I came across an old timber cruiser shed. This was built and used in the 1950s. It was used by senior BCFP staff, Webb Binion, who later became my boss, and Chief Forester, Jerry Birch. As you can see, the terrain could be very steep, and the scenery, though, could be very spectacular. At some point here, we managed to get a cat, Sandy, and then Sandy gave birth to Scampy. Here they are, Sandy and little Scampy. Scampy became so huge it was almost like a dog. At some point, Patricia's father, Don Goodsell, mentioned a fun thing to do. We should paddle around the Bowron Lake circuit. In late spring, we bought a canoe and we trained on Ferry Lake. Eventually, we felt confident enough to run the San Juan River. We had a serious incident when our canoe hit some sweepers, and the end result could have been life-threatening. I have the story fully documented in my memoir. We ended up swimming downriver, climbing up an embankment, and then eventually hitchhiking a ride into Port Renfrew to get our car and go home and dry out. We did retrieve our canoe, we paddled the river, and we pulled out at Ferry Lake. We felt ready for Bowron Lake. I have a full-length movie on our adventure on the Bowron Lake circuit. Upcoming are but a few select photos. The Bowron Lake circuit is located in the central interior of British Columbia. The circuit cuts into the Caribou Mountains and is 116 kilometers long with 11 kilometers of portage. It is paddled in a clockwise direction. We stopped and camped at Green Lake at 100 Mile House on the trip up to Bowron. We went for an evening paddle and it was just beautiful. Okay, here we go. Our packs on this trip were 55 pounds each, and here, this is a canoe rack, so you can lean your canoe up on it and get it back on your shoulders a lot easier. On each of the portages, we hiked first with our packs, then we hiked with the canoe, so we had to go there and back twice on the same trail. Our first night, we actually had some fresh pork chops we brought along with us, so I fried them up, and that was the last of the fresh food we had like that. Most of the time after that, it was freeze-dried. At the start, even though it was cloudy weather, it was quite hot and humid. J3 and 4 saw us paddling down Isaac Lake, which was the longest lake, and also the weather was windy and rough during that entire length of the trip. Yeah, the Isaac River here is pretty mean. You don't want to miss the portage here. The paddle on Lanese Lake after running the Caribou River was a very welcome thing. Oh, the trip became so much fun. The paddling, the camping, just the kind of stuff I love doing. Sandy Lake, the single best campsite in the entire trip. We stopped here to do a little laundry and clean up. It was just so peaceful here. The next day we did a side trip and a hike down to the Caribou Falls, about 75-foot drop on the falls. Man, was it noisy. On the loop back, we were required to line our canoes up several kilometers of swampy beaver dams and other things. Our last night on the circuit, we camped at a place called Pat's Point. Here's me trying to look disappointed that the trip has come to an end. In fact, I was actually disappointed. It was great fun. After the trip ended, we drove into Quesnel, we stayed at the Talisman Inn, and we went to Billy Barker's for a steak dinner. After we got back from the Bowron Lake circuit, one weekend we went out to try to hike to Sad Lake, which was along an old fire trail. We took Cub along with us. And basically, though, the trail was pretty obscure and we didn't make it, so we just camped in the middle of the forest. It was okay. This is our camp setup, just plopped down in the middle of the forest at a convenient spot. At the end of August, we were up in Comox and we went hiking up Mount Washington ski lifts with Millie Gutzel. One of my responsibilities in forestry was to identify provincially needed cone crops to provide seed for growing seedlings for planting programs. I found a great high elevation mountain hemlock crop. I organized a cone collection event where we went out in the evening to fall the trees and then hand pick the cones with our forestry crew. It was a very successful event and we got a large collection. Depending on the weather conditions, in the fall, September, we would undertake the required prescribed fire/burning operations through the division. Here, in this case, we were using a helicopter drip torch, which of course made it a lot easier than doing it by hand. At this time, I was not experienced at starting fires, so it was a learning experience for me, to which I became quite a good expert as the years went on. In October, we were able to bring Patricia's horse down from Comox. It was quite the effort, but we managed to secure some farmland to have Tally run around in, and it served us very well, and Patricia was able to have her horse near her. Access to the farm was right along the San Juan River. The farmland was located in the Delta area and it was very low elevation, quite subject to possible flooding. Here is the access road right along the San Juan River. One day, end of October, early November, we were leaving Port Renfrew for Comox, and we ran across these beautiful shots of sun shining through the forest. We had a major rainfall event in December, 13 inches of rain in 24 hours. Our new basement ended up getting flooded, and a lot of our personal possessions or memorabilia and stuff in the basement were damaged by the water, which sat there for a couple of weeks before we went down and even noticed that it had happened. I documented this event in my memoir. I was quite devastated by the loss of a lot of personal things that dated back to when I was a child. In 1976 Christmas, my mother and father went down to Poway, California to have Christmas with Diane and Ivan. We decided it was a great opportunity for us, so we went down as well, and we stayed down in a motel just down the road from where they lived. We drove down in 2 days, one night on the road, staying in a Motel 6. Gosh knows where that was. We stayed at a travel lodge, and I think this is the one that we stayed at. It's now called Ramada Inn. A day or two ahead of Christmas, there was a big gingerbread cookie making exercise going on. Here is 29, Ivan is 33, and Terry is 6. I am 26 years old, and Patricia is 23. Mother here is 53 years old, and Dad is 52 years old. And little Tricia here is 2 years old. After Christmas present opening, we enjoyed the outdoors, and the weather was simply fantastic. I'm not sure what was going on here, but we were fooling around outside, and Dad was playing games and teasing Terry with a coconut. And we managed a family portrait. not sure how soon after Christmas this was, but we headed out to the San Diego Wild Animal Park and really enjoyed a day out there. And then another day we headed down to Tijuana and took in the sights and sounds and smells of Tijuana. And I'm not sure what water reservoir this is. It kind of looks like the one down near Sandy Lakes. Well then, on another day, we headed over to, or up to, Disneyland. Here's the shots from It's a Small World Pavilion. Views here from the treehouse. We were obviously there late into the night. I'm not actually sure if we stayed up in Anaheim or not. Here's a shot now of Main Street all lit up. And finally we took in Universal Studios, and this is the set here of the Jaws event. And we did reverse of what we did going down, 2 days, going back. Here's Mount Shasta, beautiful in the evening. Well, we get home and we had a whole bunch of other presents from that we left here at Port Renfrew, so we had kind of a second Christmas. The view from our living room window, Port Renfrew, could be pretty nice looking. And Patricia catching up in some much needed sleep, all cuddled up with Sandy. Our aquarium had gotten a little more complex. We have some gouramis here. They were beautiful, and angelfish as well to round it out. It started looking pretty good. We put a lot more time into it with real plants and that sort of thing. Okay, we'll see you next year.